Hi everybody, my name is Rich Frascone, and I'm here to introduce you to Who's Telling the Truth, the show where we want to dig into the media's questions and find out if they're being factual or fictional. We need your help. We need to find out who's telling the truth. Hi everybody, my name is Rich Frascone, and I'm here you're watching the premiere of the show, Who's Telling the Truth. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of the show, I really want to explain why I'm here. And I actually moved to Danbury back in '76, and I used to work for Comcast Cable. I used to say that I was either the first guy or the last guy you wanted to see when I was coming to your house. The first guy when I was coming to hook your cable up, or the last guy if I was coming to collect on your bill. But I worked here and I worked all over the country installing cable. And as time went on, I got downsized out of this, and I've been a small businessman for probably the last 20 years. I actually install central vac. Some of you, I might have worked on your house. If anybody needs a central vac, we're going to have my email up later. I'd be more than happy to come over and take care of you. But that's not why I'm here. I'm actually here because I became an activist. And I became an activist virtually in the last year, or maybe a little bit longer. Actually, Wisconsin is kind of what pushed me over the edge. But for years and years, I was busy making money. I was drilling holes, running pipe, making people happy, and I never really thought much about money, other than the fact that I didn't have enough of it. Well, through the use of the internet, I started to look, and I started I wanted to find out what was going on. Why wasn't the money circulating? And I tell you, the internet is a treasure trove of information. But you have to be careful when you're using the internet because there's a lot of things out there that are unauthored, they're bogus, people put stuff on, and then other people read it, and they believe it to be true. And this is a problem. And one of my biggest beefs is with Fox News. And if there's one thing I love to do, it's I love to hate Fox. Why? Because they're deceptive. Now, let's take that a step further. They're not deceptive. They lie. They come right out and lie. And we can get into greater detail. But, getting back to what brought me here, when I first started to become aware, and one day I was watching Fox News, and this was about Wisconsin, and I'm watching this woman who claimed to be a teacher, and she was against the union and against what was going on in Wisconsin, and I said, this doesn't seem right. What's going on? And for some reason, I said, just for shits and giggles, let me Google her. So I Googled the woman's name, and of course it comes up. And instead of just being a teacher, it turns out that she was the chairperson, she was the treasurer for the Republican Party, for their treasury in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm saying to myself, what kind of crap is this? You're putting on somebody that's got a vested interest in the outcome of what's going on here. You're not telling us who she is. You're lying to us. It was just terrible. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. And then I started to look into what Fox News was doing. And I went to school up in Boston. I went to Graham Junior College. And the valedictorian for my graduating class was Mark Somers. You guys probably know him very well. He worked on with the green goop on Nickelodeon, where they would dump the goop down, and he always had the suit jacket with the sneakers. Well, his name's not Mark Somers, but I went to school with him, and he was the valedictorian. And I'll never forget, one day we were getting ready to do our national newscast, which we broadcast to our 2 dormitories, but everybody was very, very serious about this. And so anyway, I'm reading the teletype, and the teletype was an AP teletype. And this was at the time when Nixon got caught with his hand in the cookie jar over Watergate, and it was just a matter of time before he was going to have to leave office and he would be impeached. So I'm sitting there and I'm reading the copy that Mark is about to read on the air, and I said to him, I said, you know, Mark, why don't you just tell everybody that this guy's a real prick and he doesn't deserve to stay in office and we got to get rid of him. And he looks at me and he says, Rich, before I say anything on TV, I have to have 2 verifiable sources, otherwise I don't say a word. So now, whenever I watch Fox News, the first thing I say is, I have to have 2 verifiable sources. Now, Fox News has a right to put on whatever they want. I mean, they really do. It's their station. They're footing the bills. They can do whatever they want. The only thing that I'm asking from them is be honest. Don't use the word Fox and news, because those 2 words don't go together in the same sentence. I mean, really, think about it. Fox News should be called Fox Opinion. If they said Fox Opinion, I wouldn't argue with them. I wouldn't care. I'd say, guys, knock yourself out. But don't present yourself as a news and as a source of credible information when half the stuff that you do, you just make up. Tell you, one of my chief beefs is with global warming. People, you watch Fox and you would think that global warming doesn't exist. And the other day I'm watching Stuart Varney come on, their chief economist. I don't know what kind of degree this guy has, but he gets up and he presents a case. He says that global warming, there's proof that global warming hasn't been occurring for the last 16 years. So of course, I gotta Google it. I Google the actual report that he's presenting on Fox News, and he coyly says on Fox News, he said, well, they tried to slide this in the back door. They tried to sneak this information out so nobody would catch on to it. That's not the truth. They came out with the report, and the report itself said that global warming was happening faster than anticipated, but what they did was they played with the graphs and with the facts and figures, and they took the highest recorded date back in 1999, and they compared it to another part on the graph, which was equal to 2012. So they said, see, everything's staying the same, but when you actually look at the whole pattern of the chart, you can see. I mean, it's as plain as the nose on my face. If anybody has any questions about global warming, it's very simple. Go to Google world temperatures. Just type world temperatures. You'll probably get 100 different graphs, maybe more. But the one thing that you can't argue with, when you look at the charts, they go from left to right at a 45-degree angle, and there's no question that the Earth is getting warmer. So my beef is, why wouldn't you want to be honest with people? Why wouldn't you want to tell them? The reason is simple. They have an agenda. Why should they be called a news organization if they have an agenda? I mean, come on. Can you imagine if a sports team or if, if an NFL franchise went around portraying football teams the way that Fox did? Holy mackerel, there'd be riots. But, the other thing, when it comes to global warming and carbon, it's like they don't care. And why don't they care? It's because they want to put profits before people. And the thing that we have to understand in this country, we're all here together. We have to share everything. So if you make more profits by polluting the rivers, the streams, if you make more profit by putting carbon into the air, that helps heat up the planet. If you make more profits by trying to go against EPA regulations to make more money, something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. And what we have to do is we have to learn that we have to incorporate building our profits into the problems that they create. And we have to take care of those problems and make sure that we eliminate them and not try to circumnavigate everything and make more money while causing more problem. You know, recently, and you can't, you know, because the campaign is coming up and it's getting to a fevered pitch. The other day I'm watching and they have Romney is standing in front of a front-end loader full of coal. And behind him is all the coal miners, and all these guys are going to lose their jobs because they're not going to be able to make the data, and it just goes on and on and on. Obama is standing out in a cornfield in Iowa with windmills behind him. And the windmills are slowly turning, and each time that windmill turns, that's one less barrel of oil that we have to incorporate or that we have to burn. And that's the problem, burning fossil fuels. We've got to get out of this mentality. We've got to stop doing stuff by doing stuff that's going to give us extraneous costs. You know, people say, oh, we got so much coal, you know, it's so cheap and our electric bills will be cheap. Yeah, fine. But what about the people that you're giving asthma to? What about the other people that you're causing lung disease to? All these extraneous costs that eventually we're going to have to pay for. The other day I'm at Walbaum's. I'm sorry, I'm at ShopRite. And I'm looking at the cantaloupes that last year used to be $1 a piece. And this year they're on sale for two for $5. And I said, what the hell's going on here? Why are these cantaloupes so expensive? The answer is simple. That's the price of global warming. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's the cost. When you see these crops dying in the fields because they're just drying out, that's the cause of global warming. So we have to pay the price. We have to pay a vig. We got to pay it one way or the other. Who are we going to pay it to? Do we want to pay it to ourselves and to the country, or do we want to pay the vig to the 1%? And this is my problem. And, you know, and Fox, what they'll do is they'll back the 1%. They'll jump through hoops. They'll try to do anything they can to convince what I call the simple folk. And believe me, you have to be pretty simple to watch Fox News. Because when I watch Fox News, I have to watch it with my laptop on Google so that I can challenge everything they have to say. You know, Glenn Beck used to be on Fox News, and I tell you, he was one of my favorites. I mean, you could never guess what he was about to say. And I tell you, what was even better was what Jon Stewart used to do to Glenn Beck. When he would just make him look stupid. But you know, it's getting to the point where I used to be nice with people. And I used to respect their opinions. But I don't anymore. And the reason why I don't is because the people just repeat what they're being told. They don't question anything. They don't challenge it. They accept it for fact. The other day I'm at Home Depot, an older gentleman. He had to be in his 70s. And he's working at Home Depot, and we start to talk about the environment and global warming. And right away I could see where this guy was a fervent Fox watcher. And instead of being nice and coddling him, I challenged him. And I didn't want to be mean, because I'm not a mean guy. But I want people to understand that from now on, don't take anybody at their word. Look it up. And Glenn Beck would tell you this. He would say, don't take what I say, look it up. Well, recently, he just had a debate with Elliot Spitzer. And it was an actual debate. And one of the problems is Glenn Beck couldn't fox his facts. And Elliot Spitzer walked all over him. Why? Because when you make stuff up and you have a lawyer that's sitting there contesting it, guess what happens? The lawyer usually wins. Why? Because most people can see through this stuff. And that's the problem. And that's what brings me here. You know, I would rather be drilling holes, running pipe, making people happy, than coming down here and trying to convince people that they're being hosed and duped by a news organization. But it's gotten to the point where I just can't sit idly by anymore. I feel like I'm the guy on the Titanic. I'm the guy with the flare gun on the Titanic. I've seen there's a problem, and we've got to do something about it. What I'm hoping is that most people aren't seeing me shooting up the flares and they're going, hey, look, they're having a party over on the Titanic. Because that's not what's happening. I mean, we've got some serious issues. But getting back to Fox, one of the things that they do, and I love the way they do it, they make a statement in a question form. And let me bring this to mind. I'm sure you're all familiar with the movie My Cousin Vinny. I mean, it was just a delight, and Joe Pesci was just terrific. But you know, in that movie, you know, there were parts where it just got to the point where it was ridiculous. And you know, with Joe Pesci, there was one point where the sheriff is talking about Ralph Macchio. And Ralph Macchio said, I shot the sheriff? You think I shot the sheriff? So he said it in a question form. But when the deputy was repeating what Ralph Macchio said, he said, so I asked him, did you shoot the clerk? And he said to me, I shot the clerk. So I asked him again, did you shoot the clerk? And he said to me, I shot the clerk. And this is exactly what Fox News does. They'll say something ridiculous, like, is the president a Muslim? Oh, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying, should somebody think about this? Was the president born in the United States? Oh, geez, well, I don't know. Maybe we should look into it. But they get away with this all the time. Why? Because they ask in a question form. And it's almost sad because the average person is going to sit there and they're going to go, I don't know, is he a Muslim? Then that guy goes to work, hey, Joe, I heard the president's a Muslim. Yeah, you know, I think he is because I heard the same thing. So what happens? Again, people don't challenge anything. They have an agenda. And it's just evil. I mean, it's just evil. When they go, one day they're talking about windmills. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. And they virtually got everything wrong. And what they did was they just wanted to imply that windmills were evil. Oh, windmills kill birds. Oh, windmills, windmill. That's why I call the people on Fox News confusionists. They're not conservatives, they're confusionists. Why? Because they want to throw up a cloud of smoke so that people don't know the right answers. And that's why I'm doing this show. I want people to call in, and you can call in now. I know there's probably 10 million people watching this show. But you can call in, and you can ask some questions. don't ask me opinions, because you know, an opinion is an opinion. If we can, I'd like to stick to facts that we can kind of numerically represent, because if you tell me 2 and 2 is 4, I can accept that. If you tell me 2 and 2 is 5, you got to throw up a lot of confusionism to get me to believe that. But trust me, Fox News will do this. So getting back, holy mackerel, folks, I think we have a call coming in. But this is my first time trying this, so let's see what happens. Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah. I was just wondering, you asked me to call in, so I'm calling in. I just want to ask you a question.
Absolutely. Make it easy.
Have you ever heard of Joseph Goebbels?
Joseph Goebbels. Wasn't he the Nazi propaganda guy?
That's right.
Okay.
And Fox News is just as good as he is.
Oh, I think Fox News is better.
Better?
Oh, better, yeah. Fox News, when I watch Fox News, it's like watching a relay race. Let's see, they'll pick out a subject like redistribution of wealth. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, folks, and it's like, here's the baton. Okay, Greta, redistribution of wealth. Okay, Fox and Friends, okay, and they just on, and it doesn't end. It doesn't
Yeah, but now
end.
if you repeat it often enough, they believe it.
Well, you're right. You're
And that's
right.
what happened with Joseph Goebbels. He repeated stuff, so he was so good that people believed him. And that's what's happening today. They repeat this stuff so often that people believe it.
Yeah, I tell you, it's sad. It's sad.
Conspiracy theorists, you're just what you said before, they're confusionists.
Well, because the thing is, if they told you the truth, if they came right out and said what their agenda was, and if they looked you in the eye and told you the truth, you wouldn't be a Republican. No, you couldn't be. Because the thing, like, look what they're trying to do with Romney's tax plan. He wants to drop everybody's rates by 20%.
How? How are you going to do that?
Well, you can't. And the thing is, once you do the math, you'll see that it doesn't work. But what happens is, with these conservative Republicans, they don't care.
They just drive you into more debt. Is that it?
Well, that's part of the reason. And getting into, speaking about debt, that was one of the first things that brought me that brought me to this table.
Yeah.
I started to look at the Federal Reserve,
Yeah.
and like I said earlier, the only thing I ever knew about money was I didn't have ernoughh of it. But I started to look into the Federal Reserve.
Wasn't Paul Volcker head of the Federal Reserve?
Yes, he was. But now we have Ben Bernanke there. But the interesting part was, and let me see if I can do this on TV so that we can get this.
All right.
I'm going to open up my wallet here, and I've got some money in here. This is my money, right? I worked hard for this money. Personal responsibility. It's my money.
Okay.
The problem is, it doesn't say on it Rich's money. It says,
what?
It doesn't say Rich's money. It says Federal Reserve note, okay? Now.
Well, it used to be you could redeem that for silver.
Well, you could. And at one time, you could redeem it for gold.
Oh.
But those days are long gone. But here's the thing. When the government needs to borrow money, what do?
They just print it.
Well, no, that's not correct.
What do they do?
What the government does is when they need money is they print a bond, a savings bond.
Oh.
You probably have some of them. People give them away for graduations, for communions.
Yeah, we used to get those at work.
Okay. Well, the lion's share of those bonds are bought by the Federal Reserve. Some are bought by China. But the lion's share is bought by the Federal Reserve. Now, how do they pay for those bonds?
I don't know.
Here's the cute part. They print money, okay?
Yeah.
And they give the money to the government. Actually, most of it's done on computers.
Well, how do they do the debt thing? They sell it to China? Is that how they?
Hold on. I'll get around to that. All right. So now, what they do is, and let's pretend there's no computers. Let's say they can only print the money. All right, so now they print the money and they give it to the government.
Okay.
Government says, thank you very much, and they spend it into existence. Now, the government realized that they borrowed this money. This money is borrowed money. This money was created as a debt.
Okay.
If there was no debt in America, there would be no money. It's that simple. This money was created as a debt. Now, here's the interesting thing. When this money needs to be paid back, what's missing? What is missing from this money when I go to give this back to the Federal Reserve?
Compound interest.
Aha! The interest. No matter what I do, I can't get any interest out of this bill.
Compound interest.
Why? The interest doesn't exist. The interest hasn't been created. How can I give you something that doesn't exist? It's impossible. I can give you back the principal, but I cannot give you back the interest. And why? Because the interest hasn't been created. It doesn't exist. The only way I can pay you interest is to do what? Is to conveniently take out another loan. So I take out another loan.
Wait a minute now, this can't be happening.
Right, which entitles me to pay back the interest on this.
Well, then we have to take out a loan from the Europeans, say like the French or something. We have to get them to.
Well, no. But no. So now we've got to pay. Now, we've got to pay this back at interest. now
we borrow money to pay back the first loan. Is that it?
That's exactly it. And that's why do you think you get so many unsolicited credit card applications in the mail? Think about that. Because they want to get you on that treadmill. That's all they want. Miss one payment? We're going to hammer you, baby, because that's what we do. That's what the 1% does, and that's why I'm sitting here in front of everybody in Danbury, Connecticut, because this shit's got to stop. It's plain and simple. We got to stop this. We have to start printing our own money and spend it into existence, and that's the way you cure this problem. Now, in 2010, take a guess how much money we paid in interest only on the national debt. Uh-oh. I think I might have knocked them off. You still there? Uh-oh. Anyway, hopefully he'll call back. But I apologize. I shouldn't get so excited. But getting back to what we were talking about, in the year 2010, the United States paid $164 billion in interest-only payments. That's $164 billion that we pissed away and we gave to the 1%. Why? Why? Because nobody really knows about this. And the reason why is because they want to be deceptive. If you knew this was happening, you wouldn't be a happy camper. Just like Ford said, and I'm not talking about President Ford, I'm talking about Ford that made the automobiles. He said if the American public ever finds out how the monetary system really works, there'll be a revolution by tomorrow. And it's that simple. Now, we have to start doing what Lincoln did. You know, people say, well, you know, you can't print money. Well, you can. And Lincoln did it, and he did it very successfully. What he did was he started printing greenbacks. We still carry them today. That's why the back of the bills are green. They're called greenbacks. And what Lincoln did, Lincoln realized that there was no way that they were going to avoid the Civil War. So he went to his buddies in Washington who helped him get elected, and he said, fellas, I need some help. I need to borrow a lot of money because we're going to need a war. Well, let me tell you something. There is nothing bankers enjoy more than war. Mr. President, we'll give you as much money as you want, as long as you keep paying us interest. You know what? We'll even lend money to the other side. We don't care. Just pay us the interest. So Lincoln went back to Washington, and he did some calculations, and he figured, they're going to charge me 36% interest on the money that I'm going to borrow. So he said, screw them. So what Lincoln did was he started printing his own money, and he printed them with greenbacks, so that this way they were different from the other money that was in circulation. And he paid the troops in greenbacks, and he bought the supplies of the army in greenbacks. And everybody loved greenbacks. Why? Because they were readily acceptable and easily exchangeable. Hey, I got one of these 20 greenbacks. Oh yeah, I'll give you 20 single greenbacks for them. Or we can barter out a system, but you can exchange it. And that's the whole idea of money. You know, back in biblical times, in the Middle Ages, if you were to lend money at interest, it was called usury. Usury, at one point in time, was punishable by death. And the reason why is you can't sell something or give something to somebody that you don't have. And that's what they're trying to do with the money. They're trying to get the interest from a pool of money, they're trying to get the principal and interest from a pool of money that only contains principal. From the very get-go, the mathematicians and the economists know. They know the system can't work. It's impossible. The numbers don't add up. That's why you have foreclosures, because they understand a certain portion is going to have to drop off, and it's going to because the math doesn't work. It can't work. I just showed you the money doesn't exist. And this is with the Federal Reserve, and this is really what got me going. You know, because I never realized that we paid a vig on every dollar that we borrow. You know, so getting back to Lincoln. So Lincoln spent the money into existence, just like Rome did. When Rome built its great empires, how did they build them? Not with slaves. They built it with money. And how did they get the money? They took the common metals, the bronze, the copper, stuff that was readily available, and they coined it into money. And they spent it into existence. And the people loved the money. And believe it or not, they loved paying taxes. Why? Because they could afford to pay the taxes. The money was available. How much do you want? Oh, I got that. I can do that. And the money circulated. And everybody was happy. And look, they built the aqueducts. They built the Colosseums. They built the greatest empire up until the United States came along. And what caused the empire to fall? It was simple. It was very simple. It was greed. It was the Roman greed. And what happened is Caesar, in his wisdom, decided to make himself almost godlike. And he demanded that the currency, which was coin at that time, had to have his picture on it. Well, if that wasn't egotistical enough, the money also had to be made from gold. Gold. Well, guess what? We got a shitload of bronze and we got plenty of tin. We even got some, we don't have any gold. So the thing was, the people couldn't pay. They had to give up everything so that they could buy gold. And then when they bought the gold, the only place they could spend it was back. And what did they create? They created the fact that the greatest empire ever built collapsed. Why? Because the money wasn't available to spend. When you control the amount of money that's available, that's where the problems That's where the problems are created. It's not what backs the gold. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's gold. It doesn't matter if it's silver. It doesn't matter what it is. In England, for 800 years, they used what was called tally sticks. What's a tally stick? That's what it is. It's a stick. It's a piece of wood. And they notch out on the piece of wood increments. And those increments tell you the amount of debt. And what they would do is they would split the tally stick in half. The lender would get one half, the borrower would get the other half. Now this worked for 800 years. There was nothing backing the money. The only thing that backed the money was the people's intention to pay it back. And that's the only thing. When you go to borrow money from a bank, the bank is coming to you with empty pockets. They don't have the money. What they're going to do is they're going to take your ability to make money. And they're going to say, this guy is good enough that we trust him that he's going to pay us back. And that's the only thing that solidifies that loan. The bank doesn't have the money. You know, when I went to school, Sister Dorothy Ann always taught children, you know, everybody puts their deposits in the bank and then the bank lends that out. Well, if that was the truth, that would be a beautiful story, and that's really the way it should be. But that's not the way it works. And the way it works is what's called fractional reserve lending. And this gets scary. I mean, what they've enabled these bankers to do is a regular commercial bank can take $1,111.12 and safely deposit in their bank, where it's going to be as safe as if it was in its mother's arms. Nobody can ever touch it. Nothing can ever go wrong with it. Because they put that money on deposit, what they're allowed to do is they're allowed to lend out 10 times the amount of that money. So now they've got $1,000 sitting in reserve safely where it can't be touched, and now they can lend out $10,000. That ain't a bad job, huh? So you've got $1,000 that's sitting there safe and you lend out $10,000. All right, now, the money that you lent to, let's say the guy takes that $10,000 check and he goes and he buys a car. And he walks into the car dealership and he puts the check down, and the car dealership says, thank you very much, here's your car. They take that check, they bring it to the bank, and they deposit that check in the bank. Guess what happens? Well, we got another call. You're on the air.
Okay, now that's where they canceled Glass-Steagall. You know Glass-Steagall? That's how come they allowed the banks to overextend themselves when they canceled Glass-Steagall. And so that you get these big, huge bubbles, and they just go on and on and on, and they blow up after a while.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what happened. In 2008, we had the housing bubble.
That's right. No FDIC is too high. It's too much for the FDIC. And so they couldn't handle it.
Well,
and so that's how they get the housing bubbles and the bankers, they overextend themselves. They go into gambling.
Well, that's what I was going to get. Just I'm not going to pound on the table anymore to knock you off, but just bear with me, because I'm trying to explain fractional reserve lending.
Okay.
And this is important, so just bear with me, okay?
All right.
So anyway, so now we've got the guy coming in that sold the car with his $10,000 check, and he deposits it in that bank.
All right.
Well, guess what? Now that bank has another $10,000 to lend out. So they've still got the $1,000 sitting safely in their bank that'll never be touched.
That's collateral.
They've already lent out $10,000, which they're going to get paid interest on. Okay, now,
Right.
with that $10,000 back in the account, the bank can do what?
They can borrow money against
Now,
the bank.
they can lend out 90% of that money. They have to keep 10% of that $10,000
No, they don't.
Yeah, no, they do. They have to keep 10%.
They had to before, but now they changed the law saying that they don't have to do that.
Well, I'm talking about fractional reserve lending. You're talking about something a little bit different. You're right, though, because when Lehman Brothers went under,
Right.
most banks are leveraged 10 to 1. When Lehman Brothers went under, they were leveraged 350 to 1.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine walking up to any builder in Danbury, any builder at all,
Yeah.
and saying to him, listen, I have $1,000 cash in my hand right now. I want you to build me a $350,000 house. That builder would say, what are you delirious? You got to change your medications, babe. I can't build a $350,000 house for $1,000. And I say, why not? They do it all the time on Wall Street.
Yeah, right, right.
And that's what happened. But getting back to the fractional reserve lending, what happens is, with that $1,000 still safely in their bank vault, they can lend out over $100,000 at interest. $100,000 that they never had. They never had it. Could you imagine giving money away that you never had?
Well, now you can build that $300,000 house, right?
There you go. But you see, the whole thing is, when it all comes down to it, we've been duped. We've been scammed. And the thing is, most people don't know about it. And why don't they know about it? Quite
Because
frankly,
they don't have the education.
well, most people really don't care. You know what? Most people are concerned
How are you
about.
going to explain that to an illegal alien from Mexico?
Well,
Fractional reserve.
well, there you go. But you know what? You know, sometimes, you know, especially with the aliens. I don't know about your parents, but you know, my grandparents came over on the boat, babe. You know, I mean, my parents were the first of their family to be born in this country, and I'm fortunate enough to be born here as well.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is, what we have to start understanding is that we're all in this together, and we have to work together. By trying to hose each other out of money, and by trying to set these systems up that really don't make any sense. And I mean, you know, when you really start to do the math, and you
Well, that's where the media comes in. They have to sell it to you. And when the Republicans control the media, it's easier to sell you stuff like this.
There you go. And you know, I'm so glad that you said that, because you know, when I watch Fox, all they do is complain about the media, you know, the Main Street media, and I'm saying, well, what the hell are you guys?
Yeah. I mean, they're conspiracy theorists, and what was the other word you used?
Well, I like to call them confusionists.
Yeah, that's it.
No, because the thing is, it's so true. And I tell you what, I'm going to tell you something else that might ruffle your feathers a little bit. I know some of the girls, sometimes it does. But are you familiar with the Koch brothers?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. There's two of them.
Well, no, actually, David and Charles are two brothers that are together. But there is a third brother, his name escapes. I think it might be Bill. But he had a beef about the wind farms that they were going to put up in Nantucket Sound. And but finally, I tell you, that project is moving ahead, and I couldn't be happier. Just for, like I say, just for shits and giggles.
Well, they don't have. Is there a way for them to make a profit?
Well, no. They're trying to fight it. The one Koch brother that lives in Nantucket was trying to fight it, but one of the Kennedys that's running for office now just came out in support of it. But they're actually taking soil samples now of where they're going to start drilling, so that they can put in the. They're going to put, I think it's 1,400 of these windmills, and I tell you, this is going to supply 75% of the electric power for all of Martha's Vineyard, all around, and it's just, it's forgive me for this, but it's what
the Northeast Utilities Company.
It's what I call a win-win situation. Sorry about that. But one of the things that I really want to try to accomplish in Danbury, and as a matter of fact, I called our mayor today, and I left a message, and I asked him, you know, if anybody's approached him in regard to putting up windmills in the area. And getting back to the question that I was posing a little bit earlier, do you have any idea how many homes one of these big windmills will take care of in a year's time? I'm talking about one of the big windmills that's got the wingspan of a 747. Any idea?
Well, one windmill could take care of about, what, 14 people, 14 houses?
Well, if you multiply that by 100, you're probably going to be closer. One of those windmills will take care of roughly 1,200 homes.
Oh, really?
Think about that for a minute. 1,200. If you want, Google 1705. That is the website for the money that the government has given to Solyndra, to everything else that Fox News, and has Fox News ever told you once that money came from the 1705 fund, which is the Department of Energy, that went out of its way to make sure that we can start competing with other countries when it comes to this new technology?
What would Romney do if he was in office?
What would Romney do? It's simple. You saw what he wanted to do the other day. He stood in front of a front-end loader full of coal, disgusting coal that causes lung disease and asthma and emphysema. He wants to burn that crap. And Obama is out in Iowa standing with a windmill behind him.
Oh, they got them up already in Illinois. I've seen them.
What's that?
In Illinois, they've got those all over the place.
Well, I tell you, you know, it's hard to believe. You know, when I first started watching, as a matter of fact, in this studio, one time I was on with Marty Heiser. He's a conservative Republican. He does his own show on Thursday night, and Marty's a doll.
Oh, I've never seen him.
But, well, Marty's a little mixed up, you know? So we started talking about windmills, and the first thing out of his mouth, oh, we know that the windmills don't work, they blow up, and blah, blah, blah. I said, Marty, where are you getting your information from? These things, you know, right now... Is there a
market for those here?
I'm sorry?
Is there a market for those here?
Without a doubt. And one of the beauties, first of all, England, believe it or not, last week, England just went over 10% of the power that is generated in England is generated by wind. Case closed.
Oh.
That's the truth. Denmark, I think, is like 60%. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah, right.
So the thing is, you know, people that are against windmills are going to say, well, you know, the windmills, that's only if the wind is blowing. Guess what? Guess what, Einstein? You put them where the wind does blow. You take what they call MET tests, and what they do is they run up a sensor, you know, at the hub, at the height of the hub, and they can tell. They can virtually tell exactly how much that turbine is going to be able to produce.
Oh, yeah, right.
But the beauty of using a turbine is the one factor that nobody else can compute. You know, when companies buy blocks of energy, like CLNP, when they want to give energy to us, they buy blocks of energy. They buy it from this company, from that company, and they have to do it almost on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Why? Because they never know what the price of coal is going to be, and they don't know what the price of oil is going to be. Yeah. So they can't tell you how much it's going to cost to generate the oil, to generate the electricity.
Well, that's the futures market on Wall Street.
Well, there you go. But you see what? With wind, you know what your costs are going to be. Because after the first year of operation, you know what that windmill is going to produce and what it's going to be able to provide. And you can project that out 20 years because things aren't going to change. 20 years from now, you're still going to have the same amount of wind in Nantucket Sound as you're having today. And then, you know, people will say...
because like Wall Street is not going to be able to have a profit from this, so they're going to like discount it.
Well, of course, but you know what's worse than that is they're looking at the easy money that they're not making anymore by burning this stuff.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, every time that windmill, that blade spins, every time it spins, it's sucking money out of their pockets.
Yeah, because...
And the 1% don't like that. And why don't they like that? Because the shareholders don't like it. And the shareholders want more profit. It's that simple. All we have to do is learn how to incorporate the common good into the profit scale. That's all. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to figure this stuff out.
No,
but the thing is,
it's gonna be kind of tough to put a windmill back in your backyard. You know what I mean?
Of course.
We did solar power. What about solar power?
Solar power. I tell you what. In the same fund, you look when you Google Department of Energy 1705 fund. Take a look at BrightSource. What BrightSource does is they take reflective mirrors and they point those mirrors at a tower, a steam tower. And the mirrors are governed by what's called heliostats, and they track the sun.
Oh,
so
yeah.
As the sun moves during the day,
right.
They keep concentrating the sun on this tower. And that's what creates the steam, which turns the turbines.
Oh.
But what they use is, they use a salt solution, which tends to retain the heat of the fluid. And in addition, they have a vast array of batteries so that they can store the energy.
Uh-huh.
In America, we don't have an energy problem. In 6 minutes, the sun gives us enough energy to power the whole world for a year. 6 minutes. Think about that. The problem is we don't have a problem of energy. We have a supply and a storage problem. That's the problem. A lot of the losses in electricity is because we have to transport it.
Right.
A great amount of loss. So the nice thing is with a lot of wind farms and wind turbines, they could be stretched out. Like they just put one up in Maine. It's 4 miles long. And you know, most people say, oh, those things are ugly, they're disgusting, they look terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at them and I look at progress.
What are these Koch brothers? What's their interest in these farms?
The Koch brothers' interest is very simple. There's a movie called The Koch Brothers Exposed. We were going to try to play parts of it.
I'd like to see that.
Well, I tell you what, the next time, see, the whole idea of this show was to get people like you involved where they can ask questions on like the Danbury patch, and I can review things, and then we'd be able to do this on a weekly basis. But what's happening down here is, this is the story of my life, they're going to be putting new studios in down here. So for the next month, we're not going to really be able to do anything. And then after that, there's some other issues. So it's not going to be until like the first of the year that I'm really going to be able to do this show on a weekly basis.
Well, you can broadcast from another place, can't you?
Well, I probably could, but, you know, I'm very challenged technically. And, you know, I mean, just being here today is, to me, I feel a victory of sorts, you know, because I never envisioned myself trying to talk to people about issues. I just, you know, like I said earlier, I'd rather be drilling holes, running pipe.
You do know Big T, right? Big T used to be on this show too.
Big T?
Yeah.
No,
on the show, and who's the other? There's other people too. So you guys, there's got to be something you can do.
Well, you know, I tell you what, we're gonna put up, jot down my my website, my email, and then we can keep in touch that way. But getting back to the Koch brothers, the Koch brothers,
about the movie you were talking about?
Well, yeah, the movie is called The Koch Brothers Exposed. And what it does is it shows you how these guys put profits before people. I mean, they're evil people. They're evil. What they try to do and how they try to gain power and control in this country is scary. You know, most people would say, oh, they're successful. There you are, you're picking on the successful people again. You're picking on the people that took personal responsibility again.
No. I feel sorry for him, right?
I'm not. I'm picking on the people that only care about themselves. The people that have everything, but they want more. Why? Why? When you have enough to buy this country time and time again, what more could you possibly want?
Power. They want power.
Yeah, but why? Why?
What
does
they
that...
want to be God.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't it get... I mean, come on.
What?
I mean, and this is what, you know, and this is what pushes me over the edge, you know? And have you had a chance to see Jon Stewart? Do you watch Jon Stewart at all?
I can't get him. I don't have access to all that stuff.
Okay, well, do you have access? You have access to a computer, right?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
I have access to you right now. That's about it.
Hey, you know what? And let's take advantage of that. And do me a favor, send me an email. Oh, you can't because...
How about a text?
A text will work, yeah. What I'll do is I'll give you my home phone number. We got 1 minute left? We only got 1 minute left. Oh, man, see what happens when you're having fun? But anyway, my phone number is 203.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to write this down.
Hey, you got to come to the table prepared. Come on.
Put it on the screen. Can you put it on the screen?
No, not. We only got 1 minute left to go, so. But anyway, Jon Stewart, we got to get you a computer. It's that simple.
All right, hold on. 203.
203-240-6707.
What is it?
6707.
6707.
Right.
Okay.
What's your name, by the way?
Greg Knapp.
Greg Knapp. Greg, it was really any relation to Jack Knapp?
No.
No?
No, we used to work together though, but there's no relation.
Yeah, Jack's a heavyweight in the Republican Party in Danbury.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I went to take some stuff to the Danbury Boys Club at the base of the lake. You know, once a year they have the the clean out, and Mayor Barton was there and Jack was there.
Oh yeah, the PAL place, right?
Yeah, exactly. I got to go. They're giving me the wrap-up signal. But I saw Jack and I said, Jack, I love you, babe. But I'm going to be your worst enemy because I tell you, I ain't buying this Republican stuff. All right, guys. I think, look, the graphics running. I mean, this couldn't be any better. Jack, I want to thank you for, no, I'm sorry. What did you say your name was again?
Greg.
Greg, I want to thank you for calling in. You made my first show a success, and we got to get you a computer, kid.
Yeah, right.
No, really. I mean, I've probably thrown more computers away than I can think of. I mean, we got to figure out a way to get somebody like you, one where you can use it, and Anyway, it was a pleasure, babe. I really appreciate it. Hey, don't forget. Well, we won't be on again until the 19th. So.
What, November?
No, yeah.